Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to today's Wild Rift video. And I have a spicy game to show you today, and also a spicy build to show you as well. This is AD Kai'Sa by none other than Nova Remake himself. This is by far, I think, the craziest Kai'Sa build I've ever seen in Wild Rift. But I'll explain to you the benefits of this build, and I'll explain to you why this can work and why this can be a very good AD Kai'Sa build. Now, I don't think I would really recommend you to go for this build itself, but you could give it a try. Let me know what your thoughts are of the build, and let me know if you've given it a try, and let me know how well you did down in the comments below. But I'm going to show you Nova Remake screenshot on screen now with his build that he showed over on the Chinese social media. And as you can see on screen, very similar to the build that I have gone as well. The only difference is that there really is the first item. You can either go for Ghostblade or Serpent's Fang as the first item. Both of these are, completely fine. For the boots, I think Gluttonous Greaves is better than Berserker Greaves now because of the extra AD you get from Gluttonous Greaves. And then the last item, I don't really think Blader King's that beneficial in this build. I think going for a little bit of extra crit and getting more damage with Solari Charge Blade, getting something like Infinity Edge as a final item is probably a little bit better. But everything else is exactly the same. Right, let's take a look at the build in a little bit more detail. But as I mentioned already, Ghostblade or Serpent's Fang is the first item. The benefit with Serpent's Fang is it is a cheaper item than to go for Ghostblade. Serpent's Fang is 2,800. Ghostblade is 3,000. So you want to try and get a cheap item early on to try and get your first ability evolved as soon as possible. That is why he goes for something like Ghostblade or Serpent's Fang. Now, Manamune is the cheapest item, but the problem with Manamune at times is it can take a little while for it to come online. You do have to wait until Manamune is fully stacked. But if you get something like Ghostblade or Serpent's Fang, you get that instant power spike straight away. You get that lot of attack damage, you get the first ability upgraded, you get the flat armor penetration, so you get a lot of benefits very quickly. So this is more of like an early game, try and get as much damage and burst damage as possible, and then go from there basically. So yeah, Ghostblade or Serpent's Fang first item, both are very good. As I mentioned, Gluttonous Greaves is better now than Berserker Greaves in my opinion, because the 35 AD is very good, and also the Omnivamp can help out Kai'Sa a little bit more. Collector, obviously bit of a hit or miss item. I think they're probably better items than Collector, but I thought I'd give it a try. It's a very cheap item. It can be pretty good, but the AD is not that much. The armor penetration and flat armor penetration, not that much. And the deaths and taxes, the execution on deaths and taxes, the percentage is not really that great either. But overall, it can be pretty good. This is, like I said, more of like an early game, really cheap items, trying to get the biggest power spike as quick as possible. So we're going for all these very cheap items like Ghostblade, Collector. Solari Charge Blade is also a pretty cheap item as well. Gives us a little bit of attack speed, a little bit of ability haste. The Sunburst passive means when we're using our abilities, so like our first ability or our second ability, to try and get our passive proc off as quick as possible, we're going to be getting Radiance, which means that our auto attacks are also going to do more damage and do have the potential to crit. Mortal Reminder, our percentage armor pen item, also going to allow us to apply Grievous Wounds to reduce the healing of enemy champions. And as I mentioned already, Infinity Edge as a final item I think will probably be better than Blader King. Blader King is good if you're against a lot of tanks, but I think Infinity Edge is still one of the best AD items in the game, and pretty much a no-brainer when we already have 50% crit chance with Collector and Solari Charge Blade. For the runes, Conqueror, you can run lethal tempo with this build as well, because this is a lot more AD centric. But Conqueror, being able to stack your get your stacks very quickly with Kai'Sa, and also getting the bonus AD is normally a lot better, because we already have quite a bit of attack speed with Solari Charge Blade. Ghostblade also gives us a bit of attack speed, and also Kai'Sa's third ability also gives her attack speed, so we already have a lot of attack speed in there. So Conqueror could be really good for the healing and also the extra AD, so our auto attacks will do more damage. Then for the precision tree, we're always going to go for Brutal as an AD carry, because the extra bonus adapted damage is going to be really nice. Giant Slayer, this can be swapped out by Coup de Grace, but Giant Slayer is normally very good when you're against one or two tanks or champions that are building a lot of maximum health. Legend Bloodline for the extra Omnivamp, and then for the secondary rune we have Mark of the Week, which will give our abilities more damage from our first ability, and also our second ability more damage when we're going to be using it multiple times during a team fight. And then for the summon spells, we have Flash and Exhaust. You can run Ghost if you want to, but I think Exhaust is the best option for Kai'Sa because she doesn't have a crazy amount of attack range. But yeah, this is a bit weird. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first tried this build, it didn't really work for the first few times, but then I got a gameplay where I actually completely popped off. And I think if you get an early game advantage with this build, because the items are very, very cheap and you can buy them very, very early on, you get to a point in a game where you're at such a quick spike very, very early on that you can just run away with the game and do so much damage. So yeah, hopefully you all enjoy the gameplay. I'm going to be talking over this game because I got this gameplay off stream. So I'm going to be running you through a few tips with Kai'Sa as well, and also running you through the build and everything you need to know with Kai'Sa. So I'll see you all in just a second. All right, here we go. On to the gameplay with Kai'Sa. This crazy AD Kai'Sa build that I don't think I was ever going to be trying. I think everyone knows that AP Kai'Sa is now a lot stronger than AD Kai'Sa at the moment, just because you can get such a bigger spike as the game goes on, like in the mid and the late game. But this build has a pretty early game spike. It really depends on how quickly you can really get that first item upgrade. Obviously, as I mentioned, the first item really depends on whether you're against shielding or whether you're not against shielding. Serpent's Fang is obviously a cheaper item. Like I said, it really depends. But we do get a really, really good early little bit of an engage here on the Ezreal. I maybe could have used Flash to try and get the kill there, but the exhaust slowing me down probably meant that I wasn't able to reach into Ezreal's path. But yeah, because this game, I'm against a little bit of shielding. I'm against Seraphine. I can't remember who the jungler is that I'm against, but I think I went for Serpent's Fang just to give it a try because it's a cheaper option. And I know that if I get an advantage early on, I can get that first item very, very quickly. But you can see here, we jump onto the Ezreal. Really nice flash here by the Thresh. And Thresh does get first blood. Unfortunately, does die for it. But a 1-for-1 trade overall is not that bad. The problem was that Thresh got the kill and Seraphine got the kill. So that was a little bit of a problem. Trying to get a little bit of a trade-off against Seraphine here is a little bit difficult. Seraphine flashes in as well. I mean, Seraphine's going very, very aggressive. But both their flashes down now means that Thresh can make some crazy, crazy early game plays. And Thresh is one of the best supports in the early game for making plays. Something like that, for example, where you could just walk up with Thresh, use your third ability, proc Glacial Augment, and the slow is just so difficult to deal with in the early game that you can walk up, use your hook, and if the bot laners don't have any flash or any flashes, then you can easily get a few kills early on with Thresh. And that's why I love playing with like Thresh champions, Thresh players, sorry, in general, because the champion could just get such a big lead in the early game. So you can see here that we're just going to freeze this lane. We're just going to keep the lane as it is at the moment. We got a few minions that we have to clear to make sure it doesn't crash underneath the tower. You can see the lane's pushing towards us at the moment. The enemy champions have to move towards us. This is where Thresh can look to try and get a bit of an opportunity. The hook, unfortunately, doesn't land. The Flay does land, though. It means we can get a few more auto attacks, a little bit more damage off. You can see there that even if you don't land a hook with Thresh, you can follow up with landing a hook on the minion, then use your Flay to proc Glacial Augments. There's so many cool ways with Thresh that you can do really well. He's going to do the exact same here again. Use the Flay, and because their bot lane doesn't have any flashes, it's very, very easy to get a kill here. I'm going to do a little bit more damage here onto the Ezreal. And use my ultimate to jump away. For some reason, Ezreal dashed towards me instead of away from me. I have no idea why. KO as well, doing some cheeky moves. Tries the ultimate. I flash away from the ultimate damage. Boom with the auto attack as well. And that is a really, really cheeky few kills there for me. And gets me extremely far ahead. You can see I got 3 kills in the early game. And I'm going to have my first ability upgraded with Serpent's Fang at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So it was already in a strong spot before with having 3 kills and no deaths. And now I'm even more of a bigger spy. And this is kind of difference I was talking about with Manamune and Serpent's Fang. If I had Manamune in this situation, I probably wouldn't have been able to get as much of a lead or run away with the lead as much as maybe what I could have in this game. Really, really nice gank from the Diana. Was able to get a few kills there. I'm on a rampage now. But Manamune, obviously, you have to really wait for Manamune to get fully stacked until it really comes online. But that's kind of where the AP build comes in, because it works a lot better with Kai'Sa's abilities, which is why you go for a more AP build like Death Cap and Void stuff. So your second ability is going to do a lot of damage. But when you're going for AD Kai'Sa, you don't really need Manamune, because with AD Kai'Sa, you want to try and get as much AD as possible and as quick as possible to make sure that you're not really falling behind in terms of the tempo or anything like that. I do take a lot of damage here. I think the Thresh actually dies. Oh no, the Thresh actually doesn't die. The Flay into the hook does so much damage. You see here that I'm probably going to use my ultimate again. Yep, use my first ability and run away. I love playing Kai'Sa. This champion is just so much damn fun. Like, just being able to use your ultimate like that, dive underneath the tower, and just get into a position where you can just easily run away from the tower. It just feels so damn good. But yeah, you can see now 6, 0, and 1. And that's really where this early game spike comes in for going for this this early game sort of build in a way. I'm gonna wait in base here to go for the serrated dirk. Make sure I pick that one up. That's kind of just my mindset, knowing how much gold each individual items are. And that's a big thing as well. I think one thing that most people underestimate in this game is knowing when to go back to base, knowing when your spikes are, in terms of item spikes, in terms of knowing, I mean, yeah, get another cheeky double kill there, knowing when your item spikes are and knowing how much gold each individual tier 2 item costs is really important. You know, something like boots, for example, you know, the boots cost 1,400 gold in total. When you get that longsword in the early game, it then only costs 900 gold. So I know that when I get 900 gold from farming minions, so for example, I'm at 800 gold, I know that I need to kill a few more minions, and then I can go back to base and get boots. And if you can go back to base, get your boots upgrade before the enemy champion is allowed to go back to base, you have a big spike in the early game, and you have a bigger lane priority, because even if you potentially lose the 2 versus 2, you have an item advantage, you have AD advantage, you have movement speed advantage. So being able to prioritize the advantages from your items and knowing when to go back to base and buy items. So I know here I need 200 more gold for collector. Unfortunately here the Morgana is trying to stop me in my tracks, but I'm still able to jump away. I could have flashed in there for the kill. Honestly, I could have flashed in for the kill and traded my life, but I didn't in the end. But you can see that I tried to stay a little bit longer, because I know right now it's pointless me going back to base. I need 150 gold for collector. I'd rather stay in the lane, get that 150 extra gold, and then go back to base and buy collector. Little things like that about items, because some players there will probably think, okay, I'm going to go back to base now. The lane's not going to push in quick enough. But instead there, I knew that I only needed a little bit more gold for collector. So I wait, I get that next minion wave, and then I buy collector in the base. So having that spike of buying a second item will be really, really good for us. Yeah, 2 items completed, Ghostblade and collector both completed already, which is really, really nice. We're just going to go back to the bot lane for now, just push out this bot lane wave. And what you'll see is I won't stay in the bot lane for forever this game. I'm going to push this bot lane, and look, instantly I'm looking to roam around. There's another big thing that you need to know when playing in pretty much any lane in general. When you have that tower down in the bot lane, it's really important to make sure you roam around and you try and get advantages across the rest of the maps. Like here, for example, I'm going to go into the mid lane, try and kill this Morgana. I need one more auto attack. Boom, that's another kill onto the Morgana, and I get a mid lane tower. And you can see my bot lane wave is still not getting crashed underneath the tower, so I can still put in the pressure in the mid lane. A lot of players, all they will do in that situation, a lot of players will just sit in bot lane, try and push out the wave, and probably die because they'll push out too far. But what I did there is I realized my situation. I realized that, look, I'm not going to get anything else by staying in bot lane here. I'm going to rotate in the mid lane instead, take the mid lane tower, get a few more kills. We get another kill there onto the Garen, and then we can look to go back to bot lane when that wave gets pushed in underneath our tower. You can see the wave is stacking now, and it's stacking quite a few times. We get another kill in the mid lane as well. It's 11-0 with this build. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, we're going to go back now into the bot lane. I think Yasuo's going into bot lane, but I mean, Yasuo is also realizing that the bot lane wave is pushing in, so he can also go down here. I probably should have left this for Yasuo, to be honest, because he went all the way down here, and now he's not going to pick up any minions at all. Yeah, this was one of the moments where it's just like, yeah, leave the wave for me. But I also could have left the way for Yasuo, because Yasuo actually was really smart there and realizing that all of us were in the mid lane. He didn't need to go in the mid lane, so he went down to bot lane instead. I made a little mistake here. I needed 150 more gold for Solari Charge Blade. Again, that's just me kind of forgetting about the price of Solari Charge Blade. It's 3,100 total. I had 2,900. So what I could have done, I could have cleared the golems. And then after I clear the golems, I can then get enough gold to be able to get Solari Charge Blade, which maybe would have made this fight a little bit easier for me. But now that I got a kill, I can now look to go back to base if I want to. But I'm just going to kill the Garen first. There we go. Doesn't even get the ultimate down. The execution with Collector in the end, which is really, really nice. So again, I should have probably waited. I cleared the bot lane wave. I had a little bit more gold for Solari Charge Blade, so I probably could have waited. So I'm going to go back to base now, get the Solari Charge Blade, or I'm not. I should really go back to base here. It's actually quicker. One tip that I would give to you all, it's actually quicker to go back to base rather than going from top lane all the way down to Dragon. And the reason being is because you get that home guard boost. You get that little bit of a movement speed when you come out of base, which is always going to be better when rotating from one side of the map to the other. So you can see here, I'm just using, I'm just playing as like zoning control at the moment, trying to zone the enemy champions away from being able to take this dragon. You see my exhaust here as well, try to keep me alive. The thresh hook as well. Unfortunately, I did die though, but 15 kills I was able to get before I died. 15 kills, which is absolutely insane. Gonna buy QSS enchant, Quicksilver enchant. Probably the best here because they have a few slows with like Kale, for example. I have Morgana binding, Seraphine ulti as well. So there are a few crowd control effects that can definitely catch me off guard. So I think going Quicksilver is definitely the best option here. Unfortunately, I died though. I didn't go flawless this game, but still, look at that. 15, 1, and 3. We're at 3 items now. We're at a really, really big spike. But yeah, I think there's a few things I could have done differently, which is what I'm explaining to you now. Things like taking the golems before I went back to base when I was clearing that bot lane wave to get Solari Charge Blade on my back, instead of having to clear one wave and go back to base. It's kind of wasting time in a way. That's one way you have to think of it as well, is that you're going to be wasting, look at that damage, that's absolutely insane. You're actually going to be wasting time in general if you're going to go back to base, buy a tier 2 item, stay in lane for like another 1 or 2 waves, and then go back to base again. You're actually wasting a lot of time going back to base. When did I use QSS? I'm surprised I didn't use QSS there. But you actually waste a lot of time by going back to base, not being able to complete your tier 3 item, and then going back to lane, clearing 2 waves, going back to base again, buying the tier 3 item, and then going back to lane. It's much better just to stay in lane if you can, for them extra 1 or 2 waves of minions, or extra 1 or 2 minions in general, and then go back and get your tier 3 item. But that completely depends on the situation of the lane. If you're low on HP, if you're not low on HP, there are many different factors that come into play when you're thinking about buying them sort of items. We're at 4 items now. We're I don't know, we're just insanely strong right now. Bloodthirster is also another item you can go for as a last item. I realize this game that I'm already extremely far ahead and I don't actually need more damage from Infinity Edge, and I'd rather have the survivability from Bloodthirster, because that extra Omnivamp and Physical Vamp is going to help me out a lot. Unfortunately, my team is getting a little bit caught out though. Thresh got caught out, and also a few members of my team also got caught out there, so have to be a little bit careful. We're using our second ability quite a lot. Ezra actually used flash. I mean, I probably would have followed up with my ulti if I landed my second ability there on the Ezreal. You see here, just get mid lane priority for now. We don't really need to go bot lane. No real reason to. I land my second ability onto Ezreal. Another execute damage there onto Ezreal. This, I mean, the amount of mobility and the amount of playmaking potential you have on this champion is just out of this world. I mean, it doesn't matter what sort of build you go with Kai'Sa right now. She is by far the best carry to play. I was going to say AD carry to play in the bot lane, but you can play Kai'Sa as an AP carry if you really want to. So if you have a team that has a lot of ability powered damage, you can go for this build as like an AD damage build. Completely depends. Yeah, I'm going to walk up here. You can see that I'm just being a little bit careful. I'm positioning myself to make sure that I don't get caught by a lot of damage at all. Repositioning, doing a lot of damage here to the Kale. I'm going to use my ultimate here to jump onto the Seraphine. And you can see that I'm not being too aggressive, that I'm dashing forward a whole bunch of times. I'm making sure I keep my distance. And having your auto attack range, really nice triple kill there. And knowing your auto attack range and knowing your limits in terms of when you can move in and when you can move out with your auto attack range is really, really important, because obviously you don't want to walk into melee range with someone like a Garen, for example. You know, walking into melee range into someone like a Garen, Morgana, all these champions is really, really bad. The best thing you can do is make sure that you use your third ability for your mobility and you rotate around the team fight and try and get into the best position possible to try and do the most amount of damage. And if that's using your ultimate into the back line, because all them frontline melee champions are diving on top of you, then heck, do that. You know, that's normally the best way to go. And I did that a couple of times in this game. This was in legendary queue as well. So these players are not the worst, but look at that, 22, 1 and 5 in total. Wasn't able to complete my last item. 42,000 damage with this build, and this got me believing. I was like, wow, maybe this build is actually pretty good. But there's a reason players like Remake go for this build, reason why some of these Chinese players do go for this type of build. So yeah, let me know what you think of it down below in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed this little run through of the gameplay as well. I told you a little few tips and tricks about items and about Kai'Sa in general. But hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next wild video. Peace.